Knowing can be a curse on a person's life. I'd traded in a pack of lies for a pack of truth, and I didn't know which one was heavier, which one took the most strength to carry around. It was a ridiculous question though, because once you know the truth, you can't ever go back and pick up your suitcase of lies. Heavier or not, the truth is now yours. The truth really can be a heavy burden to bear, ladies and gentlemen, it really can. And I get a lot of mail from people, a lot of emails from people saying my life has changed so drastically since I discovered the truth, and they are finding it very difficult to function in normal society. This is quite understandable, folks, as Jiddu Krishnamurti once said, it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. A lot of people ask me what they can do, and it's very difficult to give advice to people in this regard. I mean, it can get frustrating walking around in a world of zombies who simply can't see how they are being farmed. But that is the world we live in, like enlightenment is a destructive process. I've said this many times. It's a breaking down of everything you believe to be true. It's a very, very uncomfortable realization. And the only real advice that I can give to people, advice is a dangerous thing to give, but the only real advice I can offer in this regard is to suggest that people always stay true to themselves and lead by example in all that you do. Don't expect the people around you to wake up. Just show what a bright light you can be because you are awake. But don't have any stake in the outcome of your actions. Don't expect people to get it because very often they won't. But if you lead by example in your life and you become a shining light in your community, this will affect others in a positive way. Just realize that they're asleep and deal with it. A lot of people are just empty portals. That's the way they are. Find some people who are on your wavelength so that you've got that support group around you. That's one of the most important things we can do. The problem is that people have been trained to distrust everybody. The most difficult thing for people is when they discover the depth of the deception that we're facing in the world today, just how all-pervasive this matrix is and just what the matrix is. What really holds this whole system in place? It's simply our belief that the system is real and our belief in words that are written down on paper. The system is essentially held in place by magic. But if you say that to people, they think you're crazy because they don't believe in magic, because they don't know what magic is, and yet magic appears all around them every day. That's what holds the system together. It's held together purely due to people's belief that the system is real. And this belief is held together by people's belief in the legal system, and this is held together in turn by people's belief in the written word. This is how the magic works. This is how the spells work. All of the secret codes and all of the numbers that they put in there, the magic that it creates, all of the symbolism that they put everywhere. There's a certain magic that is created by all of this stuff, which they use to control us. They put these secret codes everywhere. They put their Freemason signs everywhere. They put their obelisks everywhere. They do everything according to geometrical patterns. And they do it for not just because of the reason that it sets up an energy grid and they've got this dark circle of magic going on and this is their symbolism that they use, but it also serves as a way of controlling us. Once you've done enough research, you begin to realize that one of the main purposes of this secret language is actually to control those who are researching into who the controlling hand is and those who are researching into where things are going. They use the secret language to control those who know about them. Basically, they use it to control their opposition. And the way this is done is really quite clever. But of course, everything about this system is quite clever. But in order to understand how you are controlled by these secret markings and these secret codes, you need to understand the difference between left and right brain perception, and you need to understand how the language works, and you need to understand how the law works, what the law actually is. And when you look at law, there are two types of law on earth. There's natural law and there's man-made law. And someone said to me the other day, wouldn't it be good if we had a book for the natural law, for the law of the white arts? I said, well, you're not going to get that because the law of the white arts is not a law that is written down. It is a law that is inherently known and it is spoken. But if we do refer to natural law as being the law of the light, i.e. white law, then we see that man-made law is the law of the dark, i.e. black law. Why do you think they call the legal book Black's Law? And see, what they do, folks, is they teach you to think in language. They teach you to always think in language, and they take you to school and they teach you to spell. This is the first thing that they teach you to do, to spell words. And these are written words. Spoken words you don't need to spell. Not in normal thinking, in normal everyday life. You don't need to spell words. You can just speak them. But once you're taught to spell, and you're taught to view words as something that is written down, then the words have a power over you. But it's a spell, it's a glamour. That's why they call it spelling. And most people don't realize that when they are spelling, they are casting spells. You know, someone could tell you to do something, and if that something is wrong, you're liable not to do it. Someone could give you an order to stand between the lines, and you may think that that's ridiculous and you won't do it. But if it's written down, you have more of a propensity to actually follow the order and to do what you're told. You know, if you went to the park and there was some guy standing there and he told you not to walk on the grass, you'd probably look at him like he has rocks in his head and walk straight across it, because it's a free world and you can do what you want. But if there's a sign there that says, do not step on the grass, you're more likely to take the path. And that's how written language works. You see, Black's Law, the legal book, it's not really a book of law. It's essentially a grimoire. It's a book of spells. They can write down all of these rules on paper and you suddenly believe they apply to you, but only because you can spell. Only because the spells are holding you in place by your belief in this written language, when real language is actually spoken and real law is known. We all know what right and wrong is. We all have an inherent sense of good and bad. But by writing words down and spelling words, we can begin to mold the mindset of people and get them to operate within parameters which exist outside of natural law, outside of white law, whereupon they are now operating within black law. Written language is essentially a form of symbolism. And not all symbolism is bad. Symbolism can be used for good purposes, such as to convey information to people. But a lot of language, a lot of ancient languages, you'll find languages such as Hebrew, Aramaic, Sanskrit, even Chinese. These types of languages are not spelled. You'll find that there is a symbol which will convey an entire word, and the symbol may convey a different word if used in conjunction with different symbols, such as Hebrew. There's like 6 meanings for each letter, but each letter is an actual word. It's not a language that is spelled. And think about it, folks. Why do you need to spell words? You know, if you've got a rock or a brick, or you want to say him or her or she or he or it, you want to point to a building or a car, why do you need to be able to spell it? Why isn't there simply a symbol for building or car or he or she or it or whatever it is you wish to convey? Why do you need to spell them out a letter at a time? Why are we required to spell a word? And what do we do when we spell a word? What we do is we wrap the word in a spell. And people really need to consider the significance of that and what the word spell actually means. Another interesting thing about English is that English is a direct phonetic reversal of Hebrew. So we're basically all speaking backwards when we speak English. We're speaking sounds that are completely unnatural to the natural rhythms and natural sounds and biorhythms of our environment. But it is in the spelling and the symbolism that is contained within the language that the mental and psychological control grid is constructed. And the same can be said for numbers and geometry. You notice that there's often secret numbers around the place. The number 33 seems to be a commonly recurring theme. 42, 322, the number 9, the number 11, all of these numbers are commonly used and are therefore thought to contain certain significance, and many people spend a lot of time in gematria and study of these numbers in an attempt to discover what this magic is and how it works. And the same can be said for the geometry. The Freemasons place symbols all over the place. They place designs and sigils in the very architecture and structure of the road system. They place plaques all over the place. They put their symbolism everywhere they possibly can, and they always use things such as Euclid's 32nd supposition when building their structures. And this also puts an energy grid in place, but it's an energy grid that doesn't just create the geometric nature of the matrix that we live in, it also helps to create the mental and psychological matrix that keeps people constrained, most especially those who are researching into the control grid. And that's what many of the numbers and the geometry is there for, because most ordinary people will never even notice these things. These things are put there for people who have some type of knowledge of the occult and have began looking into this control grid and have began to research into all of this esoteric information. But they're put there to control and misdirect the researchers. You see, they put the numbers there and they put the symbolism there so that you will notice it and you will look for it. You see, you wouldn't be constrained by this system. You wouldn't be operating outside natural law. You would be doing the right thing in all that you do, if it were not for the fact that you've been taught to believe in the power of the written word. And so now this written word will cause you to operate outside your moral compass, to operate within black law rather than in natural law. And when you notice this and you begin to see that there's something terribly wrong, you start wanting to know who the controlling hand is, and so you start looking into it and you find there's symbolism everywhere and it gets you excited. You're onto something. You've discovered a secret. And so you continue to look for the symbolism. And every moment that you spend looking for the symbolism and counting the numbers and finding the hidden meanings in the words, you're not paying attention to your surroundings and you're not operating in natural law. You're not doing the right thing in all you do. You're not dealing with the situation because you're too busy going down the rabbit hole to find out what the magic is. And that is the magic. The magic is the fact that you are now distracted and your head is down this rabbit hole and you're not dealing with your surroundings. That's how the magic works, and that's why they put it there. If you couldn't spell, if you weren't trained to always obey the written word, why would you be looking for this stuff? Why would you be looking for the numbers in everything? Why would you be looking for the symbols in everything if you weren't forced into thinking in a left brain way and you weren't forced to live within the dictates prescribed by civilization? You'd simply be dealing with the world around you. You wouldn't be looking at all of these secret things. You'd be seeing something wrong and you'd be making it right. This whole geometric structure of a city completely disconnects you from your natural environment anyway. Just walking on flat surfaces with square corners completely disconnects you from everything you're supposed to be. So that's the energy of that. But when you discover this and you start looking for the symbolism, then you start finding it everywhere. And again, you think you're onto something. But if you weren't trained in civilization, if you couldn't read, if you weren't so heavily involved in the matrix, why would it mean anything to you at all? Why would you even be looking for it? You know, what does it have to do with life? What does it have to do with getting food? What does it have to do with your soul? What does it have to do with anything that is not part of the matrix?